So, since I talked about my most anticipated franchise movies of 2025, let's talk about my most anticipated original movies of 2025. Now, either these movies have intriguing premises or had really great trailers, or they have people associated with that I really like, such as the director or the actors and such. Well, we'll dive into all that, and at least just as long as it has not been done as a movie before, it's going to be on this list. So let's talk about my most anticipated original movies. Starting with my honorable mentions, including Roofman, which is from Derek Cianfrance, who directed Blue Valentine and Place Beyond the Pines. It stars Channing Tatum as this guy who hides out in a Toys R Us. Kind of sounds like another version of Where the Heart Is, but instead of Natalie Portman as Channing Tatum. So it could be really fun. It could be really intriguing. I hear it's an awards contender, but we'll see. Good Fortune. Aziz Ansari finally gets his directorial debut, and this time he has Keanu Reeves playing a guardian angel. Anything with Keanu Reeves, I'm going to watch it. Death of a Unicorn. This movie just released its first trailer and looks kind of fun. It looks pretty dark. It looks kind of goofy. There is no release date for this movie yet, but there is a trailer out, so maybe we'll get it sooner rather than later. Kind of along the same lines. Warfare, also from A24. Maybe we'll get this movie sooner rather than later. From Alex Garland, who co-directs this movie. I thought he was kind of done after Civil War, but turns out he's not done yet. I'm kind of curious to see what he'll do with this movie. Hurry Up Tomorrow. The only reason I'm kind of looking forward to this movie is that it's done by Trey Edward Schultz, who did Waves, which I thought was an excellent and very underrated movie from 2019. And I'm curious to see what he'll do with this movie. Apparently, it's based off The Weeknd's upcoming album, which is set to drop later this month. We'll see how it is. I just hope it's not another ego trip like The Idol was. The Amateur. This looks like a pretty intriguing thriller starring Rami Malek as the man who's going after the people who killed his wife. Looks like it could be really interesting. I want to see Rami Malek in more things. The Bride, Maggie Gyllenhaal's next directorial effort after The Lost Daughter, which was a solid movie, but this is kind of a weird turn, but I've seen weirder turns, honestly. With a cast that includes people like Christian Bale, Penelope Cruz, Annette Bening, and her brother Jake Gyllenhaal. It could be interesting. Let's see how it is. Him, this movie is produced by Jordan Peele. I don't know too much about this movie, but kind of going into a lot of these movies this year, the less I know, the better. Michael, a Michael Jackson biopic. Normally, I'm kind of against musician biopics, except if they're done by James Mangold, apparently. And I'm curious to see what this movie will do with Michael Jackson's life. What will they talk about? What will they not talk about? It is directed by Antoine Fuqua, who is a mostly reliable director. I think Michael Jackson's nephew is actually playing him, so I'm curious to see what he'll do as Michael. So I'm curious to see what this movie will do. F1, Joseph Kosinski returns to direct this movie. Imagine like what he did for Aircraft in Top Gun Maverick, and he's going to do it for race cars in F1. I'm curious to see what this movie's going to be like. Hopefully, this movie is. It probably won't do as well as Top Gun Maverick. Not a lot of movies can be Top Gun Maverick, but hopefully it finds a decent audience. And the last two movies are kind of similar because they're directed by Steven Soderbergh. First up, Black Bag, which stars Cate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender, and it could be really interesting, kind of like a little bit more serious version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, although that TV show may be maybe more of that line, but still. I'm curious to see because like Steven Soderbergh keeps saying he's going to quit, but then he comes back and it's kind of weird. But he actually has two movies this year. The other movie's also on this list called Presence, which comes out later this month, which is basically a haunted house movie from the perspective of the ghost. Could be really interesting. Let's see how that actually is. Now let's get into my actual top 10 most anticipated original movies of 2025. Now, first up at number 10, Companion. I don't know a single thing about this movie. I know Jack Quaid is in it. I know Sophie Thatcher's in this movie. I know it's from the team that brought us Barbarian, kind of. It's not done by Zach Krieger. It's done by someone else, I believe. And Zach Krieger is only producing it. But right now, the marketing campaign for this movie has been very mysterious and very quiet. We don't have a full trailer yet, and this movie's supposed to come out in just weeks. Weeks. What is this movie even about? I don't know, and I'll probably find out when I'm sitting in the theater. Number 9, Begonia, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Yorgos Lanthimos is becoming one of those directors where I'm kind of going to be intrigued no matter what he does. He's starting to have his own unique style. Even though I didn't love Kinds of Kindness as much as I love something like, say, Poor Things, I'm still intrigued by this movie. It stars some people he's already worked with in the past, like Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons. I don't know too much about this movie yet, but it does have a November release date, so they're going for awards. At number 8, The Life of Chuck, Mike Flanagan's most serious movie that's not a horror movie. I'm curious to see what this movie was like. Hopefully Mike Flanagan directs a solid drama as opposed to something that's really scary. I'm curious to see what this movie's going to be like. I'm hearing some decent things about it, and I hear it's coming out around the summer, So let's see how this is. At number 7, Sinners. This movie, directed by Ryan Coogler, stars Michael B. Jordan in two roles. It looks like a vampire-esque movie. Also stars Haley Steinfeld, Delroy Lindo. I'm curious to see what this movie is like, even though this movie was supposed to come out in March, but it got delayed until April. So I'm a little upset about that. At number 6, The Monkey. I was really surprised by Longlegs. I thought that movie was really creepy. It really got under my skin with some fantastic performances. But I was also really surprised afterwards that Oz Perkins had a new movie coming out the following year called The Monkey, which is somewhat on the same veins of being really messed up, but also just it looks like it's going to be more comedic than any of his previous movies. So I'm curious to see what that's like. Kind of need to see a full trailer. Like the first mini teaser that kind of appeared in front of Cuckoo was really creepy. The second one is kind of shows the comedic side of it. So I'm hoping that the movie is at least a fun little horror comedy out there. At number 5, Love Hurts. Ke Huy Quan is back and he's in a major action role this time. Not this time, he's always been in action roles, but he's in an action comedy where he plays a realtor who must come back as an assassin to, basically take down his brother and such. It's from 87 North, who's done movies like Violent Night, Nobody, Bullet Train, The Fall Guy, but they're mostly known for John Wick. So hopefully this can do for Ke Huy Quan's career, even though Ke Huy Quan, I'm just really happy for him. He seems like a really nice, ball of sunshine, and I'm just really glad that he's actually a lead in a movie like this. At number 4, The Smashing Machine. This movie is directed by one of the Safdie brothers, and it stars Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt. It's based off a true story about a real wrestler. I'm curious to see what this movie is like, especially Dwayne Johnson in an A24 movie of all people. That seems kind of odd to me, but I kind of have faith in the Safdie brothers. Well, I say that because they kind of gone on their own ways. Meanwhile, at number 3, Marty Supreme is directed by the other Safdie brother. It's also a sports movie. Stars Timothée Chalamet, Gwyneth Paltrow. I believe it's about tennis. It could be really fascinating to see. The only reason why Marty Supreme is a little higher than The Smashing Machine is because at least Marty Supreme has a release date. It's supposed to be released around Christmas, whereas The Smashing Machine does not have a release date yet. They just say 2025, so we'll see. At number 2, Mickey 17. This was my most anticipated movie of 2024, and it got delayed to this year, and it's coming out in March instead of Sinners. So I'm really nervous about this movie. I am kind of excited for this movie because I really liked Bong Joon-ho's last movie, Parasite, and I've been really excited to see what kind of movie he would do next. He was going to do an English language movie with all these people like Robert Pattinson, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, Steven Yeun, Naomi Ackie. It looks like it could be a really fun, dark comedy a bit, but I'm kind of nervous again because the movie just keeps getting pushed around. It was supposed to come out last year, then it got delayed because of the strikes, and it was supposed to bounce around. It was supposed to come out this month, then in April, now it's coming out in March. We'll see how it is. I hope it's decent, but I'm going to be a little apprehensive because of how many times it just keeps moving. But my number 1 most anticipated original movie of 2025 is The Battle of Bacton Cross. Paul Thomas Anderson directs, Leonardo DiCaprio stars. That's all I need to say. I don't even know too much about this movie, and again, the less I know about these things, the better. I'm a big fan of Paul Thomas Anderson as a filmmaker. He's one of those filmmakers who every time I watch one of his movies for the first time, I'm usually kind of confused, and I'm like, what was that about? But the more I think of it, more I think of it, and more I think about what they were trying to do, I actually get it upon a second viewing. That happened a lot to me with some of his movies. There Will Be Blood, The Master, Phantom Thread. A lot of his movies have done that to me. Punch Drunk Love is another example. And I'm really curious to see because also apparently this is like his biggest movie yet. It might actually open in IMAX, which I'm kind of surprised by. So I'm excited to see what Paul Thomas Anderson and Leonardo DiCaprio are cooking up. So those are my most anticipated original movies of 2025. What are some of the movies that you're really excited for? Non-franchise movies. Comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.